What about the international touring teams coming here? They would have been big occasions.
Unbelievable, yeah. When the year the Lions from here, there was a parade right through the town, and the Calvin Hotel was packed with people. They had massive, what do we have? About, you'll just read the number, about 20,000 of the game, I suppose, really packed, but it would hold. And it was always a big time, the touring team. That's what's hurt me a lot, is those sort of things are missing. I got nothing against professionalism, but I think it's got to be levelled out and looked at sensibly. I think the All Blacks being paid, and even the Highlanders, Crusaders, etc., yes, fair enough. But the Southland and Otago and the provinces, it should be kept at an area that the unions can handle. I think, because it's all said and done, there's people and they're getting quite a big money, and some of them haven't even played for Southland. Some of them play a few games, don't play many. If the good ones are going into the Highlanders anyway, if they're good, and that's an incentive to get them to the Highlanders. Then they're getting their 50 or 100,000, whatever they're getting.
Once you retired, how soon did you start actually coaching?
Immediately. I coached Pirates for 5th grade. When I finished playing, when I retired from South, I was 28, and I took over the 5th grade, and then about a year or two later I took the seniors. We won the Galway Shield. Yeah, I had a good run with the coaching. We won the Galway Shield, and then I coached South and beat the Lions in '66, and then Australia, and we beat Australia too. But we drew for the Ranford Shield, which is always the disappointment of my life. You know, we're up in Taranaki. We drew 6-all.
Of those, which is the most satisfying, do you think, the win over the Lions?
Oh yeah, in those days the win over the Lions was terrific. Yeah, that was very much so, because the actual New Zealand Rugby had their annual meeting, had a meeting here. Just and the whole lot were in the grandstand. That don't happen, and it was just a big day, and it was good.
Did you enjoy playing, coaching as much as playing, or more so?
Oh, I like playing. Yep. I don't think I hardly ever missed a training at Pirates the whole time I was there. I can't ever miss one. And I played for Pirates for about 10 years. You know, I captained the Southland Junior Reps when I was only about 18, 19. Yeah.
You retired from playing quite young, didn't you, at 28? Why did you give it up at that stage?
Not many went over 28 in those days. Very few backs went over 28. I had to. I couldn't go on the last tour. I went on 2 tours, but didn't go on the last one because I was married and just built a house, just started a business. How could I go on a football tour? You know, I couldn't. I had no money. I had we just had a loan on the house, etc.
All right. After you stopped coaching, it's quickly into administration. Any breaks there at all, or straight into that?
You know, I coached Pirates to win the Galway Shield. In those days, the annual meeting in both Southland and New Zealand were huge affairs. To get on the Southland Rugby Union, there would be, every club would be there with 5 or 6 in the country, and there would be a ballot. So your nominations would end, there'd be, say, so many for each position. So then I was elected onto the Southland Rugby Union. That's how it happened. And then the meeting was every Monday night, wasn't it? Yeah. And I went there 23 years I had in the South Rugby Union. It's a long time.
In various roles?
Yeah. I was never chairman, didn't want to be. We had a good agreement. Jack Smith was the chairman, or Stuart Sharp before me, but I always said that I was on New Zealand Rugby Union, and I thought it was unfair to be both, and then let somebody else look after him, and I'd do that, and we were a team. So I was on New Zealand Rugby Union for 13 years. And once again, I stood up about 90 at the annual meeting of the year we were elected. First year I stood in, Bill Craddock was the mayor of Westport, and we dead-headed. And then they went back and had another ballot, and he got in. The next year he didn't stand, and I went on the ring, and I followed Les George. And we had 13 very enjoyable years, it was very good.
Some big names in New Zealand rugby at that time, Cess Blasey and...
Jack Sullivan was the first chairman I had. He'd be the toughest chairman. He wouldn't hesitate to say his piece. And The CES was very, very clever chairman, pretty smart. But the South African saga was on at that time, and it was not very nice. I didn't like it at all.
And what was your position at that time? What was your feeling?
I was on New Zealand Rugby Union. I've never disclosed it really, but the rugby union was always split. I think there was about 13 on the rugby union, and the voting would always be about 7-6. But the police, I think Walton was the head of police. He arrived and he said, "I want this tour to go on irrespective. We can't afford to be shown as beat." They had a demonstration, you know, and a run over the ground in Waikato. So that's what kept the tour going. But on one occasion, I knew two people had changed their mind, and the result of the ballot came out the same. We've been meeting all day, don't forget, didn't only last 5 minutes, a long day. And I said to Seth Blazer, "You're not," when the ballot papers were destroyed, you know, I said, "You're not cheating, Seth." I said, "I know two people that changed their mind." He said, "You're probably right, Ray, but did you not think that two people could change their mind the other way?" I said, "Yes, I do appreciate that, because it was such a delicate situation. People could not make their mind up in one way or the other. It was disturbing schools and disturbing families, and we didn't need it. But then other people said it was just a point of view."
So let's talk about your time as All Black manager, Ray.
Yes, well, that's interesting, because I'd managed the Junior All Blacks for 3 years or so, and I'd played as much football as anybody else in the rugby union at that time, and I'd coached. I thought I was due for it, so I stood, and I was elected to go to Australia, which was about a 3-month tour. And we had a very good tour. You know, we didn't win the final test through, I won't go into it, but we had, you talk about food poisoning, we had worse than what they ever mentioned now in South Africa. But, and that's another story. But anyway, we came home, and the test of everybody wanted was the one to go to Wales, of course, because it was the 100-year centennial, a huge event. And some of them didn't think I'd have the, good enough speaker to be able to handle it. Anyway, after a split decision, Ron Don and Russ Thomas were two that stood, and the New Zealand Rugby was 2 ballots, and I won the ballot and was elected to go. And we had a wonderful time, wonderful team. I loved every minute of it. But the last test was played to a huge, massive crowd in Cardiff Arms, and we had taken dinner suits for our boys, and the only time they wore them was that one night. So in other words, we had tailor-made dinner suits for every All Black, and they wore them once. And some of the Maori boys in the team, like Sir Hickory and Freddie Woodman and company, had never worn one. So we left Porth Call on the bus, had lunch somewhere in our number ones, went into the, played the game, and then they switched into clothes, and had a happy hour, and then about 6 o'clock, I suppose, we had to change. And our shorty, our baggage man, the English baggage man, he put them there and we got dressed. It took us about an hour to get dressed, and anyway, they looked magnificent. I'll never forget it. I was there was a little castle, there was about 500 people, all male, and all in dinner suits. Absolutely magnificent. And every speaker chosen for their elegance and brilliance. And I'm sweating, I'm on a high table, looking down on the All Blacks. They marched in and they looked brilliant. And Andy Hayden is like this, going to me like, with his fingers crossed. Anyway, it's not easy, because they don't just ask you to speak. A bloke about 6'6" comes up behind you with 2 big clangers. He says, "I pray silence. Mr. Ray Harbour, the All Black manager, will now address you." Well, if you had a sore tummy before that, it was worse. So I stood up and went through the niceties, and I said, "I've heard some wonderful speakers tonight." I said, "The best speakers I've heard in my life." I don't intend to compete. But then I guess none of those speakers could have built this beautiful castle in tonight. That would take a real master builder, and the whole crowd applauded. I think they're on my side, you know. And it turned out it went out bloody marvellous. Now Andy goes like this to his fingers. I thought, I'm home.